also looked the same for Stroll. Yesterday they were actually talking, especially Stroll, on a used set. You could get it working quicker, so maybe that's why they've done that for the start of the race.
And that Aston Martin team quite often scrub a set, give it one lap, put it through a bit of a heat cycle, because they believe it gives them a bit more rigidity and stability going into the race. Should be a one-stop race, as I said, but the safety car threat is always apparent around here.
It is. There's certain areas where if you do have an incident or if your car stops, they struggle to get it off track, so safety car is deployed.
And look at that crowd. It is a sellout crowd, as it has been pretty much every day here in Albert Park. I spoke to Andrew Westercott, the chief exec of the Australian Grand Prix Corporation. It's his last race after 15 years in the job, and what he was saying, 450,000 is expecting over the course of this weekend.
Staggering,
phenomenal,
isn't it? I've raced it for 17 years, and we never had attendance like that, so fun is obviously in a great place, and it is here in Australia as well. And the fans are amazing here, aren't they?
Previous wins, the last 5 winners. Charles Leclerc won from pole, of course, last time out. Valtteri Bottas, Sebastian Vettel was the last Red Bull on pole here, and Nico Rosberg. They forgot your 3 wins on that caption. How dare they?
It's quite a long time ago. I think that's probably why.
It seems like just yesterday in my mind, I must admit. And for Max Verstappen, well, he's got a point clear of his teammate Sergio Perez going into this race. The Red Bull start, well, last and first. That's exactly what Max Verstappen would have wanted. But what can Checo do from the pit lane today?
He's had a nightmare of a weekend, hasn't he? But no, hopefully they've sorted out his issues. He was locking up the front when he was doing combined with braking and turning. He was locking up the inside front very easily, and that's what caused his issue in Q1.
And there he is, Sergio Perez in the garage. In a few moments' time, the tyre blankets will come off. He'll trundle down to the end of the pit lane. He'll start behind Valtteri Bottas, and he's on those hard compound tyres. Now, last year, Alex Albon did 56 out of 58 laps on those hard tyres, and then just pitted for the soft tyres right at the end. I wonder if Red Bull are looking at a strategy like that today.
Yeah, they will. You know, he has to be aggressive. You know, it's going to be reasonably easy on the tyres today, so he's got to use the speed of that car and be a little bit aggressive with his overtaking moves.
10 years for Lewis Hamilton as a Mercedes driver, 10 years at Mercedes for Toto Wolff too, and Mercedes starting 2nd and 3rd on the grid. A very, very impressive qualifying performance yesterday. George Russell, first man to out-qualify Lewis Hamilton as a teammate here since Jenson Button went on to win that race that afternoon as well, and George hoping that that might be a lucky omen for him in a few moments' time. We have the green flag, and in front of a capacity crowd, 5 lights are on. It's lights out and away we go. Verstappen does get away well. So does George Russell. Lewis Hamilton under pressure from Fernando Alonso. Russell has got the inside line going into the first corner. Russell just noses ahead from Max Verstappen. Russell takes the lead. Fernando Alonso trying to go around the outside in turn 2 of Lewis Hamilton. What a start from George Russell. Max Verstappen trying to come back and now defending as Carlos Sainz getting on the action. Down the inside goes Hamilton, and there is Charles Leclerc, last year's race winner, going off at turn 3.
Oh, what a start. That was excitement, wasn't it? Now Max Verstappen's down to 3rd. Mercedes 1 and 2.
Lewis Hamilton is ahead of Max Verstappen. Carlos Sainz is ahead of Fernando Alonso. Oscar Piastri looks like he's lost a couple of places too in this early exchanges. But what a poor start for Charles Leclerc as the 2 Alpines there, Gasly and Esteban Ocon, very, very close together. Ocon's going to try and make a move, going through, and there is Fernando Alonso under pressure too. What a start, the first lap here in Albert Park.
The Alpines are on it, aren't they? Great first lap for them. Oh, what a nightmare for Charles Leclerc in the gravel, stuck, end of race. But what a race we have here.
And the safety car is out because Charles Leclerc's car is still stuck in the gravel. Well, as he went off, he's out of the car, he's out of the race. And this time last year, celebrating victory from pole. His teammate Carlos Sainz on that occasion going out early on. This year, sadly, it's Charles Leclerc's turn.
It is. First lap is a pain. He's come all halfway around the world for this race, and it's over at turn 3. We've heard that on the radio, Max has been complaining that Lewis pushed him wide at turn 3.
Well, he certainly did go very wide indeed as Hamilton tried to go down the inside. Let's just have a little look at who are the winners and losers here as Esteban Ocon coming in for an early pit stop behind the safety car. They get rid of the soft tyres and they put the hard compound tyre on to try and take him to the end of the race.
All that effort in qualifying, and then they pit on lap
medium tyre on. There's quite a few coming into the pits, as you can see. Zhou Guanyu now has the hard tyres on. Logan Sargent has the medium tyres on. His teammate, by the way, Alex Albon, up into 6th place. Fernando Alonso's lost a place to Carlos Sainz, and the incident between Lance Stroll and Charles Leclerc that caused Leclerc's retirement has been looked at, and certainly Leclerc got tagged by what looks like to be the Aston Martin.
Yeah, it did. Just as he tried and turned in, there was a bit of an overlap there. Let's see if we can see it better from this view.
Well, Sainz nearly came together with Alonso. Leclerc turns in, and Lance Stroll's front left tyre is just kind of there, isn't it?
He's got nowhere to go. He's got his teammate to the right. That was a bit naughty. That's from Carlos. And yeah, he had nowhere to go. He couldn't move to the right to get out of the way of Charles. So it was just one of those racing incidents.
No further investigation, say the race stewards. They agree with Jenson Button that that was just a racing incident. But what an incident-packed opening lap it was, and what a start from George Russell. And you often, if you get a good start from the front row, that inside line becomes your friend very quickly.
Yeah, and he's going in a straight line. You see Max coming across and doing more of the circuit because he's trying to cover him off. But no, great start by him. It also put Max on the back foot through turn 1 and turn 2, as we said it could do, and Lewis had a great run at him into turn 3.
If you are just waking up back in the UK, a very good morning to you and a very happy Sunday to you as well. And for Mercedes, this is a very happy Sunday at this very early stage, because neither George Russell nor Lewis Hamilton have run a lap in the top 2 this season, and they are 1-2 behind the Mercedes-Benz safety car as we head into lap 3 of this race.
Yes, this is 2023, guys. It's not 2019. We are seeing a Mercedes 1-2.
Let's have a look at the start again. What a brilliant launch from George Russell.
Yeah, great launch down the inside there. He's got a bit of an overlap. Max gives him room. He was very, very gentle through turn 1. As he was through turn 3, it looks like Max is really struggling for tyre temp there. Rear was loose through turn 2, and he brakes really early, which is a surprise because he has a big gap to the car in front. He almost gets swallowed up by Lewis and Carlos. He did push him wide. Obviously, Leclerc in the gravel there.
Lance touched my rear right wheel. Copy, understood.
And the stewards say no further investigation.
Yeah, so Max came across, tried to cover off George, and then he gives him a bit of space. He was very cautious through this corner. He's positioned himself bad, obviously, for turn 2. Big snaps of oversteer on the exit there, not able to get the power down. And then he brakes pretty early in the middle of the track, which is obviously the most difficult because you're on the peak of the road there. Lewis on the inside, they didn't touch. He was behind him. He didn't push him wide. Personally, I don't think. It was just a great overtaking move.
Elbows out.
He pushed me off the track. I was ahead of the apex.
I don't know how he pushed apex. You know, it's very difficult for a guy on the inside to push you wide if he's not actually in front of you.
He's not ahead, is he?
No, he's not ahead. So he's not pushed him wide. I mean, Max has been good at giving him room. Otherwise, they would have collided.
As we see these replays, safety cars coming in this lap. Quickly down to Ted Kravitz.
Just a quick one. Sergio Perez pitted again onto the hard tyre this time with the aim of going to the end of the race on one set of tyres. We'll see if it works for him.
Yeah, one of several. Ocon and Joe, Bottas and Sargent coming into the pits too. Safety car period is ending. George Russell and Lewis Hamilton. It's like the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, isn't it, from last year. We're going green once more, and we can get some racing back underway. George Russell leads them down that main straight. Lewis Hamilton has Max Verstappen behind him. Carlos Sainz has his fellow Spaniard Fernando Alonso behind him. Alex Albon under pressure a little bit from Lance Stroll. Then comes Pierre Gasly, Nico Hulkenberg and Yuki Tsunoda as we make the run now towards turn 3, and that's a very fine restart from George Russell, putting him in a distance between himself and his teammate. How long can Hamilton hold the faster Red Bull at bay? We'll find out.
Yeah, very straightforward restart. George got on the power really early, sort of 3 corners before the end of the lap. And yeah, got the tyre temp, and he's looking good.
Doesn't Melbourne look brilliant as well in the sunshine this afternoon? Oscar Piastri is up into 13th place. The locals will like that. Some have pitted, and that's helped him. He's right behind Kevin Magnussen. Lando Norris trying to put Yuki Tsunoda under pressure, and Max Verstappen trying to put Lewis Hamilton under pressure too. They don't get DRS for the first 2 laps after the restart. That DRS very, very powerful, especially in the Red Bull. So what can Hamilton do to keep Max Verstappen at bay? Already 6/10, nearly 7/10 of a second George Russell has over his teammate Lewis Hamilton. we've heard drivers saying following here is not easy in the turbulent, dirty air.
Yeah, we've seen that, and Max is obviously piling on the pressure to Lewis. But Lewis, you know, he's very calm. He's been in this situation before. No worries there for him. But what a start to a race we've had.
Max Verstappen, 21 previous poles. He won 16 of them. He was on the podium for another 3, and he crashed into Lewis Hamilton on the other 2. And I sincerely hope that that doesn't happen for either of the 2 drivers here today. Carlos Sainz getting a bit detached behind Max Verstappen. Fernando Alonso getting a bit detached behind Carlos Sainz as well. Alex Albon sticking to the rear wing of that Aston Martin. The Williams has been very fast all weekend long in the middle sector as we ride on board now with the championship leader. Flat out through Albert Park.
Yeah, we're going to see the toe effect through here because he's going to be flat on the throttle all the way up into turn 9. You do go through the little snake here, the right, the long left. This feels like it goes on forever. And you see the regen of the cars in front. But through turn 9, through turn 10, they seem like they've relaxed a little bit. He's not putting as much pressure or can't put as much pressure on Lewis Hamilton.
Lap times out in front, 1:23.1 for George Russell on the previous lap. The race lap record here, a 1:20.2 by Charles Leclerc last year. Charles Leclerc out of this race after making contacts in a racing incident, say the FIA stewards, with Lance Stroll at turn 3 on the opening lap. DRS is going to be enabled on this lap, and there are 4 DRS zones for the drivers to enjoy an extra pace advantage as Max Verstappen now sets a new fastest lap of this race. And the field comes streaming down then the main straight. There's Lando Norris, behind Lando Norris, Kevin Magnussen, there's Oscar Piastri, and there is Checo Perez gaining on Zhou Guanyu.
Yeah, it's the top 3 are pulling a little gap now on Carlos Sainz, and it feels that Carlos Sainz is just backing up a little bit. He's like, I'm not racing those guys. I'm going to start looking after my tyres, which is going to bode well later in the race.
Yeah, Carlos Sainz is just backing him up a little bit. That's not helping Fernando Alonso behind him. He needs an overtake quickly, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does, because he's got the pace of the guys in the front. But, you know, it's a little bit draggy, the Aston Martin. Whether they're running more downforce or it's just a draggy car, I don't know. But he will have an opportunity next lap when the DRS starts.
So now we've got the DRS enabled. George Russell, I'm sure, would just like to try and get more than a second ahead of his teammate Lewis Hamilton. That's not happening. Here comes Hamilton at George Russell with that DRS. Now, if Mercedes are a bit clever, they could possibly use the DRS that Hamilton gets behind Russell to try and keep Lewis protected from Max Verstappen. However, such is the pace of that Red Bull, Max Verstappen's already on the rear wing of the Mercedes.
Yeah, but also Lewis isn't going to just sit behind George if he gets DRS. He is going to go for that win. No team orders here, which is great to see.
Last weekend in Jeddah, race weekend, 22 times Max Verstappen and Checo Perez exchanged fastest laps. I wonder if we're going to get a similar thing with the Mercedes, or is Max Verstappen going to get involved on that one too?
You're asking me to manage and I'm being attacked by my own teammate. You tell me to if I wasn't going to push to defend, I'll push now.
Oh dear, George Russell feeling a little bit, what's the word, vulnerable?
A little bit, and you know, it's a tricky part of the race because they're used to just looking after the tyres at this moment of the race, but it seems that DRS is having such a big effect that you can't relax. He has to push.
It's with the slipstream, it's 12 mile an hour extra pace, and that is Alex Albon off. And Alex Albon out, and as you can see, he's lost his front wing too. And that's a Williams stranded on the curbs, and no surprises that the safety car has been deployed for the second time in this race. And Alex Albon, who was having a brilliant race after spending 1 lap in the top 6 in the whole of last year, running in the top 6 here, sadly out of the race with an off.
That's a big shunt there as well. It's turn 7, lost the rear of the car. Oh, devastating for him. That's the highest they've been running in P6. That was such a great position.
Make sure you're all okay. Yeah, I'm fine.
George Russell, the race leader, is coming into the pits. Ted Kravitz is down there in the pit lane. Ted, let's see if we can come down to you.
Also, Carlos Sainz, it's a little bit earlier than they would have wanted, but you can't look a gift horse in the mouth. It's a little bit slow on the back. They had to take this. Obviously, I haven't seen Lewis Hamilton, so Hamilton has stayed out. Verstappen has stayed out.
Yes.
But then George Russell, as far as the race long-term goes, this is a gain for him. Let's see how it shakes out.
I think that is the sensible decision. What he loses in the short term, and we're on lap 8 of this race, and that safety car is going to be, what, another 3 or 4 laps, you would have thought, Jensen. Those hard tyres can easily go to the end of the race for George Russell.
Yeah, they can, and as we've seen many times with Mercedes when they were dominant, they've got both strategies covered. They've got one guy still leading the race, being Lewis Hamilton.
Now this is Alex Albon, and absolutely no chance there of avoiding that accident. He was heading to the tyre barriers, and he was a bit of a passenger.
He was. It was the rears on the entry. I don't know if it was an under rotation or something, but an unusual incident there. I have done exactly the same thing 23 years ago, but yeah, I feel for him. That is a good result gone very early on.
And there he is, standing by the side of the track. I'm glad to say he's okay physically. Seems to be okay physically, but he would have been around about 140 miles an hour approaching that particular corner. Alex Albon, and well, losing the rear and no chance of a recovery.
That's going to be a massive disadvantage.
We don't think so. So Verstappen stayed out also.
So, would Lewis Hamilton wanted to have pitted? By the sounds of that, yes. How do Mercedes make the decision? They say whoever's leading gets the first choice on strategy. And could we have double stacked them? Probably not, given how close together they were.
Yeah, well, they could have, but it would have cost them a lot of time.
That has not put Lewis Hamilton at a disadvantage at all, because the red flag has now come out, and the course of the early part of this race and the destiny has changed at 180 degrees here. We're down under, and George Russell's race has gone from the top to somewhere near the bottom, because now anyone who hasn't pitted gets a free choice of tyre change during the red flag period.
Yeah, here's the incident here. Big snap of oversteer. Oh, it's quite a big impact as well, isn't it? So George is now 7th place on the restart. So he has gone from leading the Grand Prix, an amazing position, to P7, just the blink of an eye.
That's what it looked like. Lance Stroll following Alex Albon on.
He did run wide the corner before. He did get on the dirt, didn't he? So I don't know if he picked up something or got a puncher, because that's an unusual incident in that corner.
So to the pit lane come the cars. The race is suspended, and the mechanics will get out, and the drivers may be getting out of their cars too. Lewis Hamilton leads this race from Max Verstappen and Fernando Alonso. And as Lewis Hamilton was saying, that's put me at a massive disadvantage. Now he gets a free pit stop, as does Verstappen, as does Alonso and Stroll and Gasly and Hülkenberg, who haven't pitted yet. Well, they're not going to lose 22 seconds that you normally lose for a pit stop. Who else had made pit stops? Carlos Sainz had come in with George Russell. Esteban Ocon had pitted early in this race. Sergio Perez had pitted too. Joe Guan Yu, Valtteri Bottas, Logan Sargent. I'm just looking, did Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, who were running 11th and 12th, I don't think they pitted, but the red flag has really changed the destiny of this race.
Yeah, it has. McLaren's running 9th and 10th now from 13th and, you know, was it 17th for Piastri at the start? So they've made massive gains. All the cars, drivers, engineers that thought strategy, you know, we can get in, we can put the hard tyre on, take it to the end of the race. It was a great call, but with a red flag, yeah, it negates that.
Ted Kravitz, down to you in the pit lane.
Yeah, we'll get onto that quandary, that red flag, safety car, do you pit, don't you pit, in a second. But I thought that was interesting. The first thing Lewis Hamilton did was check his front wing. He had been on the radio saying, look, are you sure it's all okay? It took a bit of a hit. Quite a hit, he said, against Max Verstappen. And so it did seem to be intact. George Russell. Poor George. Well, in the end, it wasn't the dragons that got him, was it, Crofty? It was the vagaries of the red flag system. And I don't know, I mean, the fact that we didn't see more people pit, apart from Sainz and Russell, I think was more to do with that it was too early in the stint, that they wanted to get it a bit longer, those medium tyres into the race, because it was going to be a marginal one stop anyway. You can't go too long on those hard tyres, even though people were going to try it. You know, they're not Mystic Meg, the people on the pit wall. They don't know where the race direction is going to throw the red flag, because the barrier needs so much rebuilding that it's better not to have the drivers going around time after time. Or the barrier is going to need so much rebuilding, they're going to need so much equipment on track to make it not worth going around. Yeah, sorry, not safe to go around.
I can give you some information on that, actually, Ted. The red flag is because of the gravel that came back out onto the track, and you could see actually that the gravel was coming onto that racing line. There was a lot of it with the Williams Beach, so the red flag is basically so the track can be swept, because the last thing you want through some of these high speeds, flat out curved sections is someone picking up a puncture and going into the barriers again.
Yeah, but if you're George Russell, you're probably thinking, what? Gravel? The red flag was for gravel. We've driven through gravel before.
Yeah, but George Russell's not the race director, Ted. But 2 seconds.
Yeah, sorry, George, that screwed us. But let's do the most out of it. We can still go to the front on the podium, or better.
Yeah, it's not your fault, guys. That was a good call.
Well, it was before the red flag, and I always think, let's look at the accident again. But look how much gravel did come out onto the track, and you're going through there at 140 miles an hour, JB.
Yeah, but you're not under a safety car, so I don't understand why there's a red flag, I have to say, because you just slow down for the incident, the safety car can slow down, and they can sweep the gravel when the cars aren't going past the incident.
Karun Chandok at Sky Race Control is with us too, and well, we can see more gravel there on the track. It was the strategy call to make for George Russell, but sadly it's been reversed a little bit now, and his teammate is back in the box seat. Karun Chandok at Sky Race Control, can we hear you?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can now. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, you could see there, George's face tells the story, doesn't it? And he'd done everything right. It was interesting, the back and forth about Lewis and Max. You know, Max initially complaining that he'd been pushed wide, but later on, he was told, stewards have looked at it, no further action, and just went, yep, okay. You know, I think back 2 years ago, Crofty, remember how long those conversations used to go on? And this is the new, calmer, mature double world champion, Max.
News from the FIA, it's not just gravel on the track down there, there's bits of wing, there's plenty of debris as well that all needs sweeping up, and there would have been an awful lot of laps lost in the race had the sweeper on the track been necessary whilst the cars were going around behind the safety car. So better to get it cleaned up quickly with nobody on the track than go around for lap after lap after lap, etc., etc. See the marshals out on the track there behind the safety car, and we actually lose more laps in this race, which I don't want to do, because I'm really enjoying this race. It's been fantastic so far. We are going to get going again in 10 minutes time. There's the sweeper on the track. They can do the job properly.
Yeah, I still agree with myself.
Well, no, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm giving you the facts of race control.
Totally. But you know, it's damaged so many people's races, and there was a strategy call that a lot of people made that they thought was right. Other people thought it wasn't right, whatever. But it's just strange. But I understand safety-wise as well.
Let's go down to the Alpine pit wall. Otmar Saf now, the team boss, is with us live this weekend. So we got a red flag. You'd already pitted Esteban Ocon early in the race. So take us through that one first, Otmar. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, we decided to pit Esteban early and get him off the soft tire and keep Gasly out there. And, you know, as it turns out, Gasly's now in on a red flag, and he gets a free pit stop.
I think Pierre Gasly went through the gravel, didn't he, in the car when Alex Albon had that crash. Did you detect any damage on your car as a result of that?
Yeah, I think he was the first one through. There's nothing significant. We had a good look at the car, and we're okay to race to the end.
So, an awful lot to talk through in these early stages. Where do you think that you sit here? You know, plus point with Gasly pitting, well, changing tyres under the red flag, minus point with Esteban Ocon?
Yeah, I mean, that's a luck of the draw. We couldn't have predicted this, and you know, it is what it is, and we'll race the end premiere.
Hey, it's Jensen here.
Hi, Jensen.
So you guys started on the soft tyre. I think it was a great call. But do you think now everyone's just going to run the hard at the end of the race?
I think so. I think us starting on the soft was the right thing to do. If we didn't get a grading phase, it would have lasted 17, 18, 20 laps and then hard to the end. But I think everyone will go to end now.
So that means you've got enough data from the first 2 days here, even though the conditions were so different, that you could be confident, shall we say, in your predictions there.
Confident enough to try, and if it doesn't work, we'll pit at the end.
Love it. Omar, thanks ever so much. Great to have you with us. 8 minutes, nearly 7 minutes until the race resumes. Just about time, if you're back in the UK, to put the kettle on. Make yourself an early cup of tea and then get back to the racing again.
Yes, it's going to be interesting because it's a lot of laps still on a set of tyres, and the hard tyre, it's still going to wear. And as we go later into the evening and it cools down even more, they're going to really struggle to keep the core temperature of that tyre, and we might see a lot of locking up and some different strategy calls at that point.
Ted Kravitz, let's head back down to you in the pit lane.
So other happy people after that gravel red flag, I'm going to call it. I know there were other things as well, Crofty, but amongst other things, it was for the gravel. Lewis Hamilton, of course, Max Verstappen. Fernando Alonso as well. Didn't manage to keep particular touch with the front three in that opening 7 laps or so, but I think this will play into Fernando Alonso's hands. We'll see what happens in the Hamilton-Verstappen fight in front of him. Lance Stroll too. Nico Hülkenberg, P6, starting 10th on the grid for Haas, now P6, and let's see what Hülkenberg can do. Do you want to have a look at this replay again, Crofty? Have you got a replay? I've got a replay.
Yeah, no, you carry on, Ted. No, it's just from lap 1 we're seeing a few incidents.
Okay, but he's actually he's changed his front wing. One of a couple of drivers to change their front wings down here in the red flag as well. Maybe they got a clonk early on, or they just thought they'd change their front wings. You can change more or less anything that you can get to quickly under these red flag conditions. Carlos Sainz, 11th on the restart. Poor Carlos.
Absolutely. He was keeping Fernando Alonso at bay early on, and Alonso now finds himself in the top 3.
Yeah, he was struggling, wasn't he, a little bit behind Carlos?
I mean, the debate will open, Jensen, and I think the FIA are not afraid to re-examine the regulations, to look at it for the future. Do we allow a free choice of tyre change under a red flag, or do we say, no, the race has stopped, that's it? You go back out with what you've got. Let's have a quick listen to this.
Red flag? No. Red flag? No. No way. No. No!
Is everyone okay?
Yeah, copy. We think it might just be barrier damage.
But that was scary. That Williams was a cloud, he couldn't see the car.
Yeah, wild. He's fine, by the way, he's out of the car.
Team radio in the aftermath of the Alex Albon accident, and it looks like we've got a clear track and the debris has all gone. So yeah, the debate will, I'm sure, reopen as to whether this is right or fair, or just the luck of the draw, and that's racing.
Yeah, it's been like this for years. I mean, I had a similar issue in Monaco, but that was further into the race. And everyone got 3 set of tyres when I put new tyres on and thought it was going to work for me. So it happens to us all, and sometimes it helps you and sometimes it hinders you. So it is what it is. But I understand the reason for putting new sets of tyres on, because of debris, damaging the tyres possibly. Maybe we could have it that you have to go back out on the same type of tyre that you were on before, but then do they have enough tyres for that?
It's difficult to actually write the appropriate regulation. I remember that race in Monaco. I know it ruined your day, but it absolutely ruined our excitement at the last time.
I did. Anyway, let's move on from that. It still hurts.
You're trying to forget.
Yes. But this is, you know, Lewis is probably thinking right now, well, I'm leading the race. This is great. You know, but
however,
he doesn't have the help of his teammate in front of him, so he can have DRS to tow up to the back of him. He's got Max right behind him who can get DRS.
And I think we were starting to see signs that Red Bull DRS is very, very powerful. Corinne Shandong at Sky Race Control.
Yeah, Crofty, lots of chat about the strategy going to the end of the race. There's still going to be 49 racing laps to the end of the Grand Prix. Worth remembering, Red Bull are the only team with 2 hard tyres, 2 new sets of hard tyres going into this race. 49 laps of 1 set in these temperatures is quite a long way. So that set of hard tyres, that extra set, could come in handy for Max Verstappen.
And there is Max Verstappen, sat in the cockpit of his Red Bull. Would you like to sit in the cockpit of the Red Bull? Well, if you're a Sky customer, brand new for 2023. You can do just that. In fact, you can jump on board with any one of the drivers on the grid, or in this case, still left in this race. Watch every session this season from your favourite driver's perspective and listen in to their team radios as well. If you're a Sky Glass and a Sky Stream customer, you can watch highlights of the race alongside the live action by pressing the red button. If you want to jump on board, all you need to get started is to download the Sky Sports app to your phone or your tablet and use the QR code, which will flash up on the screen for you at some stage too. Log in with your Sky ID, head to the Sky Sports F1 channel and choose your driver. If you were riding on board with Alex Albon, this is what you'd have seen live and in real time.
I'm wondering if he actually did some damage to the tyre on the previous corner where he ran wide up against the barrier, because that's a really unusual incident. Lose the rear there. Well, hopefully we'll find out soon enough. I love that you can ride on board with any driver. Yeah. It's so cool, you know, because, you know, now we get little clips here of drivers on boards. You could watch a whole lap to get a real understanding of what a driver is doing compared to another. Very cool.
Imagine being on board with Lance Stroll at the start of this race and seeing your teammate getting all out of shape at turn 3, and then Charles Leclerc making contact with you too. Yeah,
I mean, that was a scary on board, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was through the dust and just missed the rear of the Williams there.
So disappointment then for the Williams team and their new team principal, James Vowles. Logan Sargent still running, down in 17th. He pitted under the safety car and lost places as a result, but there will be others like this man here, Nico Hülkenberg, who started 10th, now finds himself running in 6th place.
Yeah, great position, isn't it, for him?
I mean, for George Russell, he's got to try and clear Hülkenberg and Gasly and then see where it takes him after that.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, definitely, but he does have the pace. But coming through the field is a very different thing than leading a race and having good pace. You know, this is a long way on one set of tyres. We all know that Alex Albon did it last year, and it was probably his best race ever. So maybe we'll have a few people walking down the pits to console him, but maybe ask how he did it last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Oscar Piastri sat in his car, celebrating his 22nd birthday. Next Thursday, only the 5th Australian to race in a World Championship Australian Grand Prix, the first to do so in their hometown. And you can see the cars waiting to get start, because we've had the red flag. So where we had a Mercedes getting past Max Verstappen at the original start on the inside, this time Verstappen's got the inside line and Hamilton's going to have to do his work from the front.
And they're on a hard tyre. You know, it looked like a few of them were struggling to get them working, and they were on the mediums and some were on the soft. So hard tyre into turn 1, going to be easy, you know, very easy to lock it inside front.
Yeah, the tyres work and they get to their most sticky by being in the right temperature window. And the difficulty for the drivers is that it's a different temperature window depending on which compound you're on. So that window for ultimate stickiness on the hard is different for the medium, is different for the soft.
Yeah, so be interesting to see how hard. Well, they actually can't choose how quick they're going to go because they have the safety car in front. So this is probably going to be a slower lap than they would do to the grid because of that, which is going to hurt them also. But can we just say, you know, McLaren 9th and 10th, they finally have a little bit of luck. They've had such a tough start to the year. Now they're both within the points.
And on the hard compound tyre, but behind them, I think Nick de Vries has gone on to the medium. So maybe watching out for a faster, potentially starting AlphaTauri with Nick de Vries. But yeah, Lando and Oscar running in the points. I predicted to a very partisan group of home fans earlier that Oscar would definitely get points today. Just trying to help me, you know, get out, you know, without getting too much shouted at, but it can happen.
Wait, this is more than 10 car lengths. Look, check it.
And he's referring there to, is Lewis Hamilton more than 10 car lengths away from Bernd Maylander in the safety car?
I think the problem is that because they think we're starting on the grid, you suddenly think that you're in control of the lap to grid, but it isn't. It's still a safety car start, so you have to stay close to the safety car.
Yeah, the rule says be within 10 car lengths, and I can't see Bernd Maylander in the safety car at the moment. Dare say Lewis Hamilton might be struggling to see him too, as he did look rather a way away. That just shows you sometimes, doesn't it, how sharp the minds of a Formula One driver is, Jensen.
Yeah, definitely. And Lewis has obviously been given the hurry up.
Normally, on a formation lap, you know, the driver on pole controls, as you say, how they get to the grid. But this is a race resumption, even though it's a standing start procedure. By the way, clear all that up in a little while, because here they come onto the grid. Oh, morning, Gran. They're all going very, very slowly, except Zhou Guanyu's just gone past 4 cars, and Logan Sargent has gone past 2, and going straight through there. Is that? I'm just trying to see who that is. That Kevin Magnussen, who went straight through the gravel.
Well, they're behind it. They're around a blind corner, so they couldn't see, and they're obviously thinking they're going at safety car speed.
That's going to need looking at, and I would imagine the race operations centre, the remote operations centre for the FIA will be going through a few angles on that one. We'll keep you posted. We're starting to get going again for our second standing starts here, and the restart procedure is under investigation. There's the medical car right at the rear. The mechanics have done their job whilst the cars have been in the pit lane. We have been stationary for 16 minutes, and now it's time to get going again. For part 2 of the Australian Grand Prix in 2023, lights out and away we go. Hamilton gets a better start than Verstappen. Alonso's got a decent start too, and he's already trying to go wheel to wheel and now taking evasive action as Verstappen jinks over to the left. Hamilton leads them through from Verstappen and Alonso, and there comes Pierre Gasly. That looks like George Russell ahead of Lance Stroll. Some very different starts there. Lewis Hamilton gets to turn 3 out in front from Verstappen, from Alonso, and then from Gasly. Behind them comes George Russell, Stroll, and there's contact at the back, and that looks like Nick de Vries has had a bit of a moment in the AlphaTauri, and you can see Valtteri Bottas going off the track at the rear of the field. Yeah, action-packed as we expected, trying to get these cars into turn 3. It's very narrow through there, and these cars are much bigger than they used to be, but yeah, great start by Lewis. Max not so good off the line again, but Fernando backed out in turn 1. I think they're struggling to get tyre temperature into the Aston Martin. Verstappen very aggressive in his defence as well, and Alonso with some lightning reactions, and there's Lance Stroll ahead of the Haas of Nico Hülkenberg, who's now running in 7th. George Russell up to 5th, so he's got past one Aston Martin. He's got past the Haas as well. That's a much better start by George Russell than those around him. Hamilton leads, Verstappen leads Alonso, Gasly, Russell, Stroll and Hülkenberg. Then Tsunoda up to 8th, Norris, Sainz and Piastri, who's lost a place and is now under pressure from Zhou Guanyu. Behind them comes Esteban Ocon, Kevin Magnussen and Logan Sargent. Perez down to 16th still. De Vries now down to 17th. The Bottas running plumb last with Albon and Leclerc out of this race. As they cross the line, the gap between the leader and the man in second place, 9/10 of a second. Sainz has a look at Norris, nothing doing there. Same with Magnussen on Ocon. Yeah, last sector of Lewis Hamilton was 3/10 up on Max Verstappen, so he's definitely got in the groove, and we can see what we can do now with that car. Carlos Sainz goes down the inside on Lando Norris, who I think saw him coming and realised that that was a fight that he was not going to win, and Carlos Sainz moves up into 9th place. Here we are, the replay of the start. It all looks pretty simple initially, and then you see George get a really good run once he gets into second gear. Oh, who was that being forced off? Sergio Perez had a great start down the inside and then lost out on places as he rather got boxed in. Yeah, and we're down into turn 3 now. We're going to try and find out who was flying, or who forced the car to fly through the air on the exit here. Down at the bottom of your screen, it was Esteban Ocon who made contact with Nick de Vries. We can see what it looked like on board with the AlphaTauri. Yeah, de Vries actually moved across on him and didn't give Ocon any room, so Ocon tried to back out, but it was too late. This is the view from Esteban Ocon's Alpine, and he did try and back out of it, and I'm not quite sure where he was going to go there to avoid any contact. No, I think Ocon was definitely not in the wrong there. I think de Vries thought he didn't have anyone on his left-hand side. 0.3 of a second on the previous lap, where Max Verstappen was slower than Hamilton in the final set, and made it up. For the first time since 2018 is that Verstappen's now got DRS, and with that gap in the rear wing, you can see how the gap